There's stuff everywhere, man. What do I do? Musician Frank Zappa said that the best job description he had was he was an arranger of stuff. Give him a lot of musical things and he could put it in order. And to a certain extent, that's also a really good description of what you do in writing. So let's talk about chunking. On an aside note, don't you really want brownies right now? Anyway, if you have a large task, it's your job to figure out how you can possibly make that task seem reasonable. Say that you were told you had to clean up somebody's room and you walked in and it looked like this. Well, your first response would probably be to run away. But if you had to do the task, you're then going to have to find a way to get it done without freaking out. Break it down into chunks, into small pieces that you can accomplish. You need to divide it up some way. I'm going to fold these and I'm going to get the floor area, then I'm going to get at the top of the dresser, then I'm going to put the clothes within the dresser, I'm going to move the furniture in its proper place. I'm going to set that bear on fire because it's looking deep into my soul. If you set it as a certain number of tasks, things will get to be a lot smoother. And that's what chunking is about. It's about breaking down larger amounts of information into a bunch of smaller units because we can deal with small units. Big things we have a lot more problem with. The question then is, what kind of smaller units do you break things down into? Look for similarities, look for patterns. And when you find these things are kind of like each other, I can put them over here. You're going to organize your information based on these similarities or patterns you see. It's all about finding complex amounts of information and trying to group it into manageable chunks. And this is something that shouldn't be too new to you because you do it all the time. Take phone numbers. If I rattled off a 10-digit phone number to you, would you be able to remember it all in one giant unit? No, because that's not how we think about phone numbers. We think about phone numbers in a unit of three, a unit of three, and a unit of four. Unchunked information broken down into small chunks. We have an easier time remembering these three small chunks. There are people who say our brain works best when we're in units of three or four. We can keep that amount of information in a cohesive whole. But if I try to shove more than that, it's harder for me to remember. You can use chunking for almost anything. You got a lot of stuff to do? Figure out how you can possibly chunk it. I got tons of stuff to do. I got to finish my homework, clean the room, and wash dishes. So finishing homework is three separate things. Break them down into three chunks. Cleaning the room, you can break that down into three chunks. Washing dishes, well, that's probably a chunk unto itself. But it might make the list look longer, but every item on that list is going to be a whole lot easier to finish. One way to think about chunking, let us do some practice exercises. You've been to grocery stores. You know what grocery stores are like. Even if you haven't shopped anywhere in a while, you're familiar with the basic concept. And you know at most grocery stores, you can get all kinds of items. If you're putting together a grocery list, do you just shove stuff on randomly? Sounds like something my wife would do, but I can't do that. I can't roll that way. Partly probably because she likes shopping and I hate it, so I want to get in and out as quickly as possible. So, how do you organize this kind of list? Well, you look for chunks. I would think that one obvious chunk right now would be canned goods because there's two canned things right at the top of column one. I would think another possible chunk would be produce. You could break it down into fruits and vegetables. Maybe that would make things a bit easier to remember. Junk food, frozen food. Lots of different ways to think about it, but if you break it down into these small chunks, you're going to have a lot easier time navigating through the list. Of course, with grocery stores, it's a little bit easier because it's arranged in a certain way. They arrange their stuff by chunking. You know the cereals are all going to be thrown together. You know the produce is all going to be thrown together. Grocery stores are built for chunking. And if you want to know where you'll find anything, you just have to figure out where the things that are like it might be. Where in the hell are you going to find tofu? Well, you look for the hippie section. There's always one. All the fake meats, fake cheeses stuff. And that's where you're going to find the tofu every time. Now, me being me, I have to also bring it to pizza because I worked at Little Caesars Pizza way too long. But anyway, the kind of ingredients you can get on pizzas, it's a very, very, very long list. I think I said when we did our transferable skills lecture that you had one person who counted out, who put toppings on that you counted out, and everything else was weighed. Well, that means separating three things in one chunk and then having everything else in the other chunk, which isn't all that helpful. If I'm trying to do my inventory, I can't do it that way, so I'm probably going to break it down into sections. Meats, vegetables, and then there's the ingredients that we use all the time, and there's ingredients that we don't use that much of. There's stuff that we can get fresh, there's stuff that we have to use pre-packaged. We're not going to sit and cut up green peppers all day long. But we're also not going to get spinach out of a can. There's a bunch of different cheeses here. They could all go on one list. Feta, Parmesan, ricotta. Yeah, that all seems like it works. Stuff that comes largely pre-packaged. Black olives, anchovies, banana peppers. Stuff that we get from our produce supplier. Tomato, onions, green peppers, mushrooms. Meats go in one list. Although you might even break that up. I know at Little Caesars, the pepperoni and ham came fresh, but the ground beef and the sausage was frozen. So you break it up into individual segments because it makes the whole thing easier to process. The thing is, when the average reader sees a very long list or a very long paragraph or a very long section, they just start to lose their mind and lose their interest. Remember the shiny object principle. We got to get stuff into small, discrete chunks for people to really remember. And we want to make it as easy as possible for the reader. So this organization is really important. See you in the next video.